Hello. In this video, we'll be going over IRS Notice CP504. This is the notice that the Internal Revenue Service might send you as a notice of intent to levy your state tax refund or other property. So this notice comes out pretty deep into the collections process as far as the IRS is concerned, and it's basically the step before they actually start garnishing, in this case, your state tax refund. So it's pretty important to pay attention to these IRS notices, particularly when you're this late into the collections process, which means that you probably have seen or you should have seen an IRS notice or several of them recently. So we're going to walk through this notice. We're going to walk through some things that you should be on the lookout for, some action items that you may consider taking if you received a notice like this, and then some things that you can do about it. So let's take a look at the upper right hand corner. I usually start here with these videos because I feel like there is some information that most tax payers should know that will help them, particularly when it comes to the collections process. So you have the notice number CP504. In this case, this is for the 2018 tax year. The notice date is January 30th, 2019. So this is point number one that I usually make is pay attention to the notice date. And the reason why is because if there's an action item, and I'm pretty sure that there's one in this notice, it's usually tied to a notice date. If it's not, if there isn't an action item or something specifically requested by a calendar date in the notice, then it will be something like 30 days, within 30 days of the notice date. Please do something like this within 45 days of the notice date. So to illustrate that example, here we are, right here, the bottom part of this notice. If you don't call us to make payment arrangements, or if we don't receive the amount due within 30 days, we may levy your property or rights to property and apply it to the amount that you owe. So this is exactly what I was talking about right here. So the other thing that I would point out is that there's a contact phone number. In this case, it appears to be the standard IRS 800 number, but for certain notices, there may be a specialized office that will address your concern, and there's a caller ID that may be associated with your account if you do call that number. Over here to the left is your name and address. So in this case, this would be a business taxpayer's name. Sometimes it's a personal. It could be an individual taxpayer. So what I also recommend is that you should keep your address up to date in your IRS record. The easiest way to do that, and most people do this every year, is to file your income tax return. Filing your income tax return with a new address automatically will update your IRS records with the new address. However, if you're in between tax seasons, you may consider either calling the IRS and validating your taxpayer information so that you can change your address over the phone, or you can file the change of address form. So for businesses, that would be IRS form 8822-B. For individual taxpayers, that would be IRS form 8822. And that is officially the change of address form for the IRS. So we'll put links to articles and videos that we've created on those two forms, as well as any other forms that we mention. We'll put those links in the show notes for you. So let's take a closer look at this notice. So a notice to levy. So you might have heard of tax liens. You might have heard of a levy. I'll give you a brief description of the difference. So if the IRS has a tax lien on your property, then that means that they reserve the right to receive first payment on that property. So let's imagine that they place a lien on your house and you sell your house. Well, if you have a tax lien on the house from the IRS, there's nothing that says you can't sell the house with a lien on it. However, the IRS does get paid first. If you have enough equity to pay off the lien and your mortgage and any other debts on the property, then you'll get the remainder of what's left. But the IRS will get paid off when you sell that house through the tax lien. So but a lien by itself will not force you to sell your house. A levy may do just that, where the IRS would actually take possession of your property. And generally speaking, there are a lot of financial accounts that the IRS can pull money from before they start looking to sell your house out from under you. But one of the things that they can do is they can garnish other government payments. So a state income tax refund would be something that the federal government can seize and apply to pay down your federal income tax return. They could also garnish Social Security payments. They can, if you filed a new tax return and you were owed a refund on that tax return, they can seize that and apply it to your taxes. So that's the difference between a lien and a levy. Now, if you agree with the amount due and you're not working with an IRS person, then you can pay the amount due. You can pay online with a check or a money order. This is basically what the IRS will say is your first option. You need to pay the amount due immediately. Here's your failure to pay penalty. Here's your interest charges. Here's how much taxes you owe. So pay it now, pay it immediately. That's pretty much the instant default option. So might not be your only option, and it's probably not your preferred option. So we'll talk about what else the IRS offers you if you can't do that. So at the bottom of page 1 of this, and this happens to be a 7-page document here, the IRS has a payment stub. So if you do send a check, you can make your check or money order payable to the U.S. Treasury, write your tax ID number, the tax year, and then the form number. So in this case, 1040A would be on the payment. Now, if you agree with the amount due and you're not working with the IRS representative, there is, additional stuff that you can look at. So, really briefly, it says that if we notified you that we suspended enforced collection because of a financial hardship, then you don't have to do anything. If you disagree with the IRS, then you should call the 800 number that was on page 1 of the notice to go over your account with a representative. The IRS does make mistakes routinely, and if you point that out, they can make a change. So, but it is your responsibility to know enough or to hire someone that knows enough to point out to the IRS that they made a mistake and what needs to happen. So what you need to know, notice of intent to levy. Basically, this is a breakdown of if the IRS doesn't receive your amount due within 30 days, they can levy your tax refund. They can place another several different collection efforts onto you. They can garnish wages, bank accounts, personal assets, Social Security benefits, so on and so forth. So if you don't agree, you can request an appeal. You can send a collections appeals request, which is IRS Form 9423, to the address at the top of the notice. The IRS, Congress passed a law in 2015 that requires the IRS to notify the State Department. So the IRS cannot shut down your passport. They can't revoke your passport, but the State Department can. And so Generally speaking, once the State Department is notified of someone with a tax debt, then they are generally prohibited from issuing or renewing a passport. So in this case, seriously delinquent tax debt means legally enforceable debt more than $52,000. So again, more payment options. There is a tool called Offer and Compromise. You can possibly make an offer to the IRS to settle your tax debt for less than what you owe. So you can do that. You can propose either an installment agreement or an online payment agreement based on the amount of your tax debt. You can also take a look at your IRS tax account balance to see exactly how much is due, so you know a little bit more about how your balance was accrued and how the IRS calculated the interest and penalties. So if you don't do anything from the IRS, then basically the IRS will enforce their tax lien and basically make it a little bit more difficult for you to, sell your house or borrow against the equity in your house if you owe the IRS some debt. So on this page, it breaks down how they calculate your failure to pay taxes, how you can have tax penalties removed. So you can use a form known as IRS Form 843. That would be the request for abatement or a claim for a refund. If the IRS imposed interest on penalties that were later abated because you either qualified for what's known as a first-time abate program, or you had some sort of reasonable cause that you were able to explain. If you get the penalties removed, then the IRS generally removes the interest on those penalties. They might not remove the interest on the taxes that you still owe, but they'll remove the interest on penalties that shouldn't have been imposed. And then we're on the last page, which basically gives a little bit of detail talking about how you can get to the IRS website and how you can contact the IRS about the collections process. There's IRS Publication 594 that can walk you through that process. We're going to go to this right here, which is the page that talks about the IRS page that talks about your CP504 notice. So I usually just take a quick scan of this to see if there's any information that might pop out that we didn't already discuss. So there's some frequently asked questions. There's links in here, again, to the various places where you may want to look further into, like making a payment plan, paying taxes that whatever you can owe or whatever you can pay, what happens with the levy process, what if you've already taken corrective action, things of that nature. So you do have some options available. I don't see anything really in here that we didn't discuss in the notice itself. So I'll go back to that page and basically wrap up this video. As I mentioned, there are a couple of forms in here that we discussed. I'll put links in the show notes to those videos, so if you need to use one or more of them, you know where to go. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see discussed in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comment section. Thank you very much and have a great day.